Welcome to this video. In this video I'll present to you a game that I just found in the news part of a chess website that was about the recently finished Open tournament in Baku, Azerbaijan. And in fact the Baku Open is one of the strongest opens in the world, I guess. It's full of grandmasters. And in fact it was won by the top player of Belarus, Sergei Zhigalko. I came across a game that he played in this tournament, and this is in fact with black. He's got black here against Anton Korobov, who's the reigning Ukrainian champion. And if you know the Ukraine, this is a very strong national championship. It was played just a couple of months ago, and it had every top player, I think, except of Ivanchuk. Okay, he's the #1 Ukrainian player, but still an exceptionally strong tournament. Korobov has made quite some progress in recent months and maybe 1 or 2 years, and has broken the 2,700 mark recently. So it's a very strong player. But this makes the game you're about to see now even more remarkable. So let's see what happens. Korobov plays 1d4. He is a d4 player, and we got a Nimzo Indian here, which is answered by Queen c2, the classical variation. Yeah, this is probably the main line of the Nimzo, and has been played by almost all 1d4 players at one time. Castles now for black, which is also probably the main move. There are a bunch of alternatives, mostly d5 and c5, but castles is the main move. White now played a3, and of course black took. White recaptured with the queen. So this is the whole idea of this queen c2 move, to get the bishop pair, this Nimzo bishop, without any pawn weaknesses. So white has no doubled c-pawn. But of course you see that white has spent some time with this queen and with this pawn move, and so black has a good development. In fact, black's main move nowadays, and this is remarkable because it wasn't really a known line until let's say 3 or 4 years ago, is the move d5, in which with which black immediately tries to open up the position. This is not what Zhigalko played, though. He played an interesting sideline, which is d6. This move looks rather passive at first, but it has a very flexible setup in mind, and we will see what happens. Knight f3 now. This is of course not the only move. White can also play bishop g5, and trying for a setup with f3 e3, which is a traditional way to set up the pieces against this setup. Black probably would play knight d7 and something along these lines. It's very similar to the game, but it's slightly different in terms of white's setup, because white has the bishop on g5. We see in the game that white intended something else. He played knight f3 as mentioned, and now knight b2 d7, and now e3. Yeah, this move looks at first a bit passive because it blocks this bishop, but white's idea is to fianchetto this piece and then maybe make use of it on the long diagonal. Black plays b6. There's no other way to get this bishop into play. So all very logical. Bishop e2, bishop to b7, castles, and knight e4. So black occupies this central position with the knight. Queen back, and now f5. Yeah, this is really a classical kind of setup in this opening, and it really dates back to the days of Nimzo, who invented this opening. He played this kind of setup also with white, starting with knight f3 and b3, or 1b3 even, and it's a very nice display how to control the light squares after you exchanged your bishop on c3. So black established this very nice knight on e4 and also has a very strong diagonal with the bishop. So white's goal here is to try to neutralize this bishop and in the long run get something out of his two bishops. So this is the kind of position where in the long run white will be very good, but he needs to really take care about black's activity that it's about to increase even. Let's see what happens. He played b4 and now rook f6. Yeah, and this is very direct. Black wants to put the rook on g6 and directly attack this point. White played now d5. Yeah, this is a typical move in these structures. The idea is that white wants to blunt this bishop, and he's even willing to sacrifice a pawn for it in some positions. Of course, we must check what happens now if black would take the pawn. If black would take, white would probably retake. Bishop here, and then white can win a tempo with rook d1, and he will follow up with bishop b2. Let's say something like this. This is not at all clear, but white will have some activity along the d file and along this diagonal, and there are even interesting ideas like this. Let's say rook g6, and now white could even think about sacrificing this exchange, now attacking the pawn. All these pawns are rather weak, and it's not so easy for black to keep all his pieces together. Note that this bishop is really missing now. If black now tries to protect a d5, let's say with this move, then white has ideas like knight to h4, which makes this rook look really silly. Doesn't have any good square. Or let's say here, it's basically the same. What should this rook do? This pawn is also hanging. If you go to g5, you might even face f4, and this rook hasn't improved. So white has chances in the center if black takes the pawn. And this is not what Zhigalko had in mind here. He played something different and a move which is much stronger. He played rook g6 first. The idea is that the capture on e6 now, let's have a look. If white would capture here, then black simply drops this knight back to f8, and he has a very neat way to get the pawn back simply with the knight. And then this knight has further interesting attacking possibilities to g5, f3, and so on. So taking on e6 is not really what white wants to do. He played bishop b2. Yeah, this makes sense. Certainly, completing development. And now, I think it's a very key point in this game, where black played a very strong move, I think. Played the move c5, and this is very, very strong and not so easy to understand at first why this move is so strong. The idea is, if white doesn't take on c6 now en passant, which he did, he took on c6. If he doesn't do that, then this pawn controls the d4 square, and the idea that white often has in this position is to play knight to d4 and to increase pressure on f5 and e6. So this pawn really takes under control the most important square here. And if white would take on e6 now, we have basically the same as before. As mentioned, black will get the pawn back. And note this pawn on c5. It controls this knight on controls d4 and prevents the knight from going to d4. And it's really not clear what white is doing in this position. This very strong knight on e4 also protects d6. So it's everything. It's working nicely together for black. I think this whole setup looks very good that black played here. White now took, as mentioned, I think this is the relatively best choice. And after bishop takes, he played rook a to d1, trying to get some play on the d6 pawn. Here there's a funny variation. If white would try knight d4, just immediately attacking this bishop, I mean, okay, it looks risky, obviously, to move this knight away here and leave g2 undefended. But I think it's funny that this is really a forced mate already. Black can now really checkmate with rook g2.
Check.
And there's simply no way to save himself from white. Let's look. King takes.
Check.
Queen check. And yeah, there are some simple lines. Yeah, this is nice and simple. So what should white do? Probably go here. Then you have a check. Check again. Note that you never can go here, of course, to h1, because then it's simply checkmate. So you need to go here. Check. King h4, and now, okay, there's more than one way to win this position, yeah. But black has quite fun move here, bishop f3. This is very neat. Now threatening queen h6, and yeah, it's simply over. If white would take here,
check.
Got this mate coming. And yeah, now my computer for some reason has a problem. It doesn't want to move king f4. Yeah, but it's king f4 and queen g4 mate. Yeah, so king f4,
checkmate.
Queen g4 mate. Okay, but okay, knight d4 is really yeah, really a suicidal move. He played rook to d1, and now just queen e7, protecting d6. Probably preparing to use this rook as well. And now g3. Yeah, it is very difficult to play this kind of position without this move, as these threats on g2 are so annoying. It's really difficult to give white some good advice here, how to improve his play here. It's really difficult already, I think. It's not lost, yeah, but it's very difficult to play this position. Black played e5 now. Yeah, and this really makes a very nice impression. I think this d6 pawn is not a weakness at all. It is covered by the knight and by the rook. And black has really great control over the center. I mean, look at this bishop and this bishop. This is supposed to be white's trump here, the white's trump card, and he cannot really do anything with the bishops. Yeah, in fact, in this position here, Korobov already committed a really serious mistake, but as mentioned, it is very difficult to play. If he, I think he maybe should play some move like maybe queen here, intending c5. It's not doing so much. Black can just play here, and then you still yeah, need to make a move. It's very difficult. White doesn't have any pawn breaks. He cannot play c5. b5 doesn't make any sense at all. It's very difficult to improve white's position. He sort of needs to yeah, keep things together and try not to lose immediately, but it's very difficult. What he did is he played knight to d2, and it's understandable. This is so annoying, this piece. You want to want to get rid of it, but black has very strong response, and this is queen to h4. Yeah, what should white do now? It's really difficult. Black's threat is simply to take on g3 and break through, so any nothing move like this is simply answered by knight g3, and it's over.
Check.
and white gets really destroyed.
Checkmate.
Like this. This is the big threat. And yeah, what else is there? If white would take here, this also doesn't help at all. Bishop takes. And what now? If white moves the queen now, then yeah, you can look at this for a couple of seconds. It's rather easy. Try to find for yourself and pause the video. Alright, I'll show it.
Check.
It's this standard tactic.
Check. Checkmate.
Yeah, still nice. So white cannot take the knight. And yeah, what should he do really? Yeah, one idea is to return, to return here. After which, at first you might think that knight takes g3 would be a good move. Let's check this quickly. Knight takes g3. The problem is it has a very nice idea. If white would take the queen now,
checkmate.
You have a very nice double checkmate here. But of course white doesn't need to take it. He can simply capture on g3. Rook
check.
Takes.
Check.
Yeah, and this looks quite strong, but it's just a draw. Black lacks pieces here. He would need to, let's say, have the rook on f8 already to play rook f6 now, and he would win the game. But you don't have enough pieces. So knight takes g3 is not the solution. But black has a simple move. He can just go here. And now you see that white has played knight d2 and knight f3 back, and black in the meantime has teleported his queen from e7 to h3, which is an obvious difference. And black now simply has this threat knight to g5, and this just wins the game. There's simply nothing white can do. If you look at this, let's say here, just to make a move, and there's knight g5 and it's over. You cannot take because of mate on g2. So like this.
Checkmate.
And yeah, what should white do? You simply threaten this, and there's nothing. If you go here, then black has the simple capture. Yeah, it's full of nice mates here. So black wins easily after this. And of course knight f3 wasn't the idea that white had when he played knight d2. He played bishop to f3, trying to neutralize this diagonal, and still it was answered by queen h3. And now the simple threat is rook h6, and it's over on h2. So not much choice for white. He played rook to e1 to prepare this move, covering h2. Black played this. Yeah, knight back. And here there's also a position which you can look at, pause the video, and trying to find a good continuation for black. Yeah, here black played the very effective move, knight takes g3. And yeah, this is rather strong. What should white reply now? If he would, let's first things first. If he would take here, then there's this checkmate coming. Checkmate. We already saw this kind of idea. So cannot take there. If he takes with the knight, you can simply go here, and it's checkmate. And okay, there's this one left, take on c6, but this is answered by simply knight takes f1. And the problem is now not only queen takes here, but rook g6 is even stronger. This is an immediate mate, and it's a mate that cannot be prevented. If white would take here, then it's checkmate. Direct checkmate, and otherwise rook g6 just wins, something like this.
Checkmate. And
you're mating. Yeah, there's mates all around. So white cannot take on c6. So at the end, there's only one move, and this is the one that Korobov played. He took on g3. There's no other move. But now black can simply take here. And yeah, he's won a pawn. But that's not all there is. Of course, there's still this dominating diagonal and the threatening heavy pieces here. So this is a winning position for black. Rook d2 now. Queen to g4. Yeah, black regroups his pieces a bit. Yeah, this is good. White was intending c5 with some discovered check and maybe some counterplay on d6, so black just steps away with his king. And white is intending maybe to activate the knight. Yeah, and this is also good. Black he wants to use all his pieces. This is putting some pressure on c4. And yeah, how do you protect this even? Not at all. White tries for some desperate activity. It's understandable. You cannot just sit and wait here and yeah, basically wait for the end. So white tries to get some activity with his queen here. But black now can activate the knight even and use it on e4. Yeah, and the end is very near here. Queen e6, attacking the rook, and it's just retreats here to g8, to a very secure square, because the pieces that you have are really in the attack are really enough. This rook just secures the king, and black is intending this, and there's simply nothing you can do. White took d6, knight e4, queen here. And yeah, note that of course black is not taking the exchange, but plays knight to g5, which is much stronger. And this is a checkmate threat that's absolutely deadly. White simply has no move and resigned. Yeah, in this game, the white player didn't really look like a 2700 grandmaster, but the problem really is that he got into such a difficult position out of the opening. If you look at this kind of position, like here, is really really terrible for white. He has absolutely no direct way to get to black's position. So I think there's really a big question where he made the mistake. I think around these moves there must be some improvement. Otherwise, this is simply a great line for black. I think a very key move is the move c5 here. This was very strong because it really stops white's active ideas. This knight d4 move is simply not possible anymore. And also after, let's say here, e5, there's still no way that white can put any pressure on the center. So he really got into trouble early in the opening. But I think Zhigalko did a very good job of converting this and managed to win a fine attacking game with the knight. A nice mating ideas on white's king. Yeah, take note of this setup. It's very good if you play the Nimzo Indian, or sometimes similar positions can be reached in the Baku Indian also. If you play this opening, maybe you should look at this this kind of setup, trying to get into this kind of position. They're very, very interesting to play for black. Very often you get straight attacking games like this, and it's really it's still solid. It's not that you're taking a huge risk or maybe are worse if white plays perfectly. It's really a very interesting and playable kind of setup. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.